For our new project, I recently picked up this wrecked Kia SUV with some moderate damage, and it came with some surprises inside. In today's video, we're gonna go over all of the damages and figure out the game plan to get everything fixed. We will deal with busted suspension to get the car rollable again. Then I'll use my homemade frame rack to pull all the damaged panels back into their original position and get it done precisely with the use of a laser. I just got this thing home, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be dealing with. Besides the obvious front damage, I want to check this car all the way around to see if anything else will need to be addressed. And the first apparent thing is, we are missing a side skirt. Good thing is, whoever got into an accident, or maybe a tow truck driver that got this thing towed, they went ahead and picked up the side skirt and shoved it inside the car, so that's one less thing I have to purchase, which is always a plus. The rest of the driver's side looks fine without any apparent damage, and so does the rear, except a broken light down on a bumper, and also bumper got a slight scuff on it. Passenger side also looks just fine, I didn't really see anything wrong with it. And another thing that I just noticed, this is an all-wheel drive model, which is a big bonus, especially here in the Pacific Northwest where I live, where all-wheel drive vehicles are in more of the demand, therefore this adds quite a bit more value to this car. Moving on to the front, there is a slight scuff in the bumper, which is not a big deal because this entire bumper cover is getting replaced because we are missing probably a good 25% of it. So normally with damage like this, the items that will set you back the most would be the bumper, obviously the grille, the headlights, the hood, and the airbags inside. And in this situation, it looks like the hood just made it. There is no damage to it at all. It is perfect. Also, the grille just made it too. Look at that. This damage got so close to it, but not close enough to damage it. This grille retails for about $360, and the fact that I don't have to replace it is another win. And also we got the headlight over here. It doesn't look to be damaged, but at the same time, it doesn't appear to be attached to the car, which leads me to believe that we may have some broken mounting tabs. And what I like about Hyundais and Kias is the fact that a lot of these headlight mounting tabs are bolt-on. That means that they are replaceable. Therefore, this headlight can still be salvaged. As far as the structural damage goes, this frame rail did not get clipped at all. And the way this reinforcement bar is bent is actually factory. That's the way it's supposed to be. So all of this is intact. So as of now, as far as I can tell, the only parts that need to be replaced on this front end would be the front bumper cover and the fender. Well, good thing is I was able to track down one of these fenders aftermarket for $93, and I'm getting a used bumper for about $200. So all in all, about 300 bucks. It doesn't look like we need a whole lot of parts as far as the outside parts go. But we have this panel right here. I'm not even sure what it's called, but I know that it's supposed to be sitting right about here. All of this structure got pushed back by a good margin. This is a structural piece that the fender is bolted to. And right now it's pretty obvious that the whole thing is pretty mangled. There's a big old kink right in there. Yeah, you can see how it got forced downward and also outward this way. And it also looks like it detached from the frame rail right in there. But you know what? This is really not that big of a deal. I plan on getting most of this fixed, and as we go, we'll see what's salvageable and what's not. But as of now, this doesn't look that bad. Suspension also appears to be damaged. If you look right in this area, there is no gap at all between this tire and the fender. And actually, this fender is sitting probably a good inch or so under this door. That means that this entire suspension here got shifted back by probably 6, maybe 7 inches. And just taking a quick glance under the car, I can tell that that lower control arm right there is totally twisted. So once the lower control arm is replaced, this wheel is gonna go right back in its original place. So the game plan is, I'm thinking to get this thing up on the frame rack first so I could pull out all of the structure back into its original position. But as of now, I can't even get this vehicle off the trailer because this wheel right here is wedged right in this area. And the only way to get this unwedged would be for me to replace that lower control arm to give myself some more space right in here so I can roll this thing off. But I don't have a lower control arm right now. I spent a couple of hours today calling around trying to see if I can source that lower control arm. and no one seems to have it in my entire state. So I'm gonna have to order this thing online. It'll probably take me 5 or so days to get it. But in the meanwhile, I'm gonna have to get creative to get this thing off the trailer. So as bad as that lower control arm looks, I'm gonna have to get it pulled, and I will straighten that thing out as much as I can just to give myself a little more room in this area so this thing could be drivable enough to where I can roll it off the trailer and put it in my driveway. Let's take a look at this control arm from a different direction. Yeah, that thing got a pretty gnarly twist to it. There is just no way I would have been able to bend this thing back without first applying some heat to get the damaged area red hot. Then I proceeded to beat it like Bobby used to beat Whitney, and still it wouldn't budge. So the next logical step was to weaken this control arm by cutting through about half of it, following up by yet another beating. So I beat the crap out of this thing, and it is much straighter. This dip right here isn't as severe. Even though I cut through about half of the control arm, there is still enough metal there to keep it all together, and I'm using it just to move the car about 50 feet or so this control arm will do just fine. Check out the gap that I got going on now between the tire and the fender. This will definitely do for now. So I got the lower control arm back in place, and instead of putting this bolt back in, I just kind of shoved the screwdriver in there because this bolt was bent and I'm gonna have to get a different bolt to go in its place. I did not want to force it back in there and screw up the threads. But in the process of disassembly and reassembly, I've noticed one more thing. Look what happens when I rotate the rotor. So all of this, including the boot, is rotating, but the shaft isn't. That means that our CV axle is busted right in this area somewhere. I see that some of the internals are actually busted up. And this is the ball bearing retainer ring. It is broken in half, and that is why all these bearings are just kind of loose in there. So yeah, this shaft is toast, so let's go ahead and get a new one. Sourcing a new CV axle is quite a bit easier than getting that lower control arm. My local auto parts store got these things in stock, so I got this side of the car jacked up to have all of the transmission fluid shift to the passenger side so it wouldn't come gushing out once I remove the axle shaft. After popping out the CV axle, I did a quick inspection on the transmission side just to make sure that nothing looked out of norm. Then I slid the new shaft into the transmission, gave it a little push, easy peasy, and then quickly reassembled the rest of the suspension. And now I can finally roll this thing off the trailer. With the car down on the ground, let's see what's going on inside. Man, we got a whole lot of different goodies in here. Oh, even got a bird cage or something like that. Anyone needs any new undies? If you do, let me know in the comment section down below and I will mail these out to you ASAP. And this is the only thing of some potential value that I found in the entire car. Guys, check this out. While cleaning out this door panel, I reached in there and amongst other items, I retrieved this ring. So, you know, it is stamped. Looks like 14K. This thing is pretty heavy, but it doesn't have that glistening of the gold to it. But I'll go ahead and take it in just to get it tested out because you never know. For most part, the trunk as well as the rest of the car was filled with a lot of useless trash. Some diapers, some cleaning wipes, more shit on the passenger side floor, front seats and especially center console, filthy, and more junk down on the floor. Got some paperwork. Guys, I think I found us some weed. Yep, this is most definitely weed, guys. But since I personally don't partake, this stuff's going straight in the trash. And I kept sifting through all of the trash in the car, trying to see if I can find something of interest. So I got some more stuff here in the door panel. All right, what is this? Looks like some sort of ashes, or I don't know. Maybe it's something that some people would smoke. I have no idea. At the time of the purchase, this car did not come with any keys, so I had to call the locksmith, and when he came out, he cut me one of these blade keys, and this is enough to manually lock and unlock the doors and also to get the car started. However, keys such as this one is not ideal to be locking and unlocking the doors all the time. That's what the keyless remotes are for. And while cleaning out the car, I did find some paperwork with the previous owner's contact information. I gave this lady a call to see if she still had the original key, and she did. I told her that I was the new owner of her old vehicle, and I asked her what would it take for me to get that key, to which she said, how about $100? Then I countered her offer by asking her if she would be willing to trade that key for that gold ring that I found, and she agreed. So when we met and I did get the key from her, she did ask me, hey, did you happen to find a little vase with some white substance in it in the car? To which I said I did. She asked me if I still had it. I said, no, I don't. It all went in the garbage. At that time, she did inform me that that white substance was in fact ashes of one of her loved ones. I could tell she was upset that the ashes got thrown out, but you know something? I had no idea, so this one's not on me. These people were definitely serious about their oral hygiene, because I found some toothbrushes, and then I found more toothbrushes. Then I found some toothpaste. Man, these people must have some real good teeth, because look what I found in the back seat. Ton of toothbrushes back here. Do they brush while in traffic? I figured that since I was already here, I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the garbage just to see what kind of condition the carpet and the seats are in. Filthy. Can't say that this is the dirtiest car that I've ever bought, but it's certainly not the cleanest. And center console was covered with the remnants of that devil's lettuce. Even though we have some room over here now, with this wheel forward, this piece right here, let's just call it an arm. This arm is bent in such a way to where it's making direct contact with the tire. This thing's got to be up probably, I don't know, good 6 to 8 inches. Let's go ahead and correct that by first getting the car up in the air for some extra ground clearance so that I could slide the frame rack directly under it. Clamping system goes in next. This is how you firmly attach the vehicle directly to the base of the frame rack. Everything looks nice and secure. And now let's go ahead and strip away all of the damaged bolt-on components. I am going to be using a laser to measure out the damage on this vehicle. First thing I gotta do is I gotta make sure that this vehicle is perfectly leveled side to side. And I'm going to use these corners of the A-pillars on both sides as a points of reference, because these spots on both sides of the car are going to be in the same exact location in relation to the rest of the vehicle. So in order to see things a little better, I'm going to put a little bit of a masking tape right on that corner. Do the same thing on the opposite side. This is the laser I'll be using. I started out with the Skill laser, and there's nothing wrong with it. This thing works just as good as this one. The only reason I upgraded is because this is a much stronger laser beam, meaning it's a lot easier to see it in the daylight. When something like this works great indoors, this laser works much better outdoors, especially on a sunny day such as this. And to be honest, when it's this bright out, even this laser kind of struggles, but I can still see what's going on, and hopefully you guys, you'll be able to see it too. And as of now, I have it set up to where it's a little hard to see. Laser beam is hitting this very corner of the A-pillar. Now if we go to the other side, it's a little bit harder to see, so that's why I got this magnetic target there, because it kind of allows you to see things just a little bit better. Okay, so the laser beam is right about there, so it's hitting higher than our A-pillar corner. So that means I have to raise this entire side of the car up. And since the car is attached to the frame rack base, all I gotta do is just put a jack right under the base and lift it up. And that's gonna raise the entire driver's side of the car up. Let's check on the progress. Okay, so I can see the beam is hitting the target right about there, so I think it's still a little too high, so I gotta come up just a little more. I can see it in person, but I think the camera is struggling to pick up that green laser beam. Then I go back to the passenger side just to make sure that nothing has moved and our laser beam is still hitting that same corner. And now I know that the car is 100% level side to side. Next, the pulling tower slides into place and gets firmly attached to the base of the frame rack. Then I tilt it into direction into which I will be making my pull. It is all hooked up and ready to go, and for some added safety, the chain gets draped with a blanket, just in case if this clamp lets loose, like it's about to do. That was the very first pull, and things are looking better already. I'm trying to bring this arm back up and also inward, because if you look, it's supposed to be right about here, and it's kind of looking more off to the side. And this gap right here is starting to close up too. Here I am on a second pull, and thing is, you don't ever want to pull everything out in one shot. This way you can observe how well the metal that you're working with is responding to being pulled, while also stress relieving the metal with a hammer while it's under tension. I am 2 pulls in and things are looking much better. We got way bigger gap right in this area, and all of this is starting to come out. This gap is really starting to close up nicely, but there are some things that I'm not going to be able to get at, like for example, just in case if you're wondering what all of the background noise is, I'm currently fixing this car in Ukraine in an active war zone. Just kidding, I'm working on 4th of July and people have been setting off fireworks here all day long. There are some things that I'm not going to be able to get at while pulling all of this at the same time. Like for example, I got a pretty big kink right in here, and I'm going to have a hard time getting this kink out with things the way they are on the car right now. So I think the best course of action in this scenario would be for me to drill out all of these spot welds and extract this panel. I would have much easier time straightening out this panel when it's off the car. And at the same time, while this panel is out, I'm gonna have some more access to other things from the inside. Like for example, I got this big dent right in here. I cannot straighten it out because I don't have any access to it, but with this panel out, I'll have a straight shot at it. And once this panel is removed, I'm gonna do another pull where all of this will actually have easier time getting pulled back into place because I'm not fighting this extra panel. Now I got a bit better idea as to what's going on inside of this boxed in area. I got another little fold right here, but I'll be able to pound that out as I'm making the pull. Once again, I'll have much easier access to this kink and also this one. And I see that there's also a little tear right back there, and I'll be able to get that welded in, so that's not a problem. This little kink, I got a good access to it now from the back. Can you guys see how well this fold is starting to just basically unfold all on its own? And right now, while there's still all this tension on the chain, I mean, there's quite a bit of tension, I can start working out these kinks. The metal is going to move much easier now when everything's under tension rather than if there was no tension on it. The way the metal flexed in here, this is kind of all bulging out. So right now, once again, while I got all this tension, I will tap that in. Something's telling me I'm gonna have some experts chiming in saying you cannot straighten high-strength steel. Well, rest assured, I've worked with plenty of high-strength steel, and this is definitely not it. Things are looking quite a bit better, and this gap right here is just about closed up. At this point, I'm ready to mirror the height of this bolt hole to the corresponding bolt hole on the undamaged side. And this is where the importance of leveling out the car side to side comes into play. So after making that last pull, we got our laser passing right through about the center of that hole. If I go to the other side, here our laser is sitting a little lower. That means that this whole panel is sitting a bit higher up. But then I started looking in here. This whole transitional area that connects the frame rail to this arm is basically sitting right where it's supposed to be. So then I started thinking, could there be something more to this whole thing? I'm gonna make a couple more measurements with my laser because it's easy and it takes no time at all. And this is what I found. I went ahead and moved the laser down so I could hit the bumper reinforcement bolts. We are hitting right in the center of the bolt. And if we go to the damaged side, the beam is hitting a little bit lower. That means this whole frame rail is actually sitting up a little higher. So I'm thinking this is what happened. When this whole area got smacked, all of this metal kind of got pushed inward, and this area right here got detached from the frame rail. But right before it detached, it ended up getting pulled upward, and it ended up taking the frame rail up with it, just by a little bit. Since there was no damage at all to this reinforcement bar, I know it did not get hit. So I can say with a 99% certainty that these frame rails did not move over. Another good telltale sign is, look at the good side, look at the fender in relation to the hood. They are perfectly in line with each other, because normally what would happen if you did have frame damage, let's say if the whole front end shifted over, the radiator support is bolted straight to the frame rail. So if both of the frame rails moved, the radiator support would also move at the same time. And if it did, it would drag the striker of the hood over with it. So the hood would also end up shifting over. And if the hood would shift, then it would hang over the edge of the fender. But here we got a perfect transition between the two. And since the hood did not move over, then I'm 99% sure that everything in this area is just fine. So I went ahead and got the tower repositioned on this side of the car. I'm gonna have to make a downward pull. And to do that, I'm gonna use this adapter. So here's the idea for this pull. Our damaged arm is directly tied into the frame rail, and hopefully once the frame rail gets pulled down, that arm will come down along with it. Alright, so we are right in the center of that bolt. And if we come over to this side, we're also right in the center of the bolt. Now let's go ahead and check these holes on both sides. Center of a hole. Center of the hole. Well guys, results just gonna speak for themselves, and I think at this point I am done with all of my pulls. I really hope that you did not think that I was gonna leave the subframe looking all torn up like this. And besides the tear, I also have to address this bolt not facing the right direction. I will be addressing this in the next episode, as well as stretching out and straightening the extracted panel, and also getting our replacement panels painted, as well as getting the rest of the car finished. So stay tuned. If you guys enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you hit that like button, and with that being said, I'll be seeing you in the next video here real soon.